All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started with the next session, prototype model for a new internship paradigm. So I'm going to turn it over to the panelists to go around and introduce yourselves. We'll start off with Mario.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mario Leone. I am the ECE technologist for Rowan University in Southern New Jersey, about 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Leslie, looks like you're up next to introduce yourself.
Hey there, sorry, there's a lot of noise on our lab right now. Leslie Birch, I'm at Penn. Hey there.
Hi, I'm Alan Feiner, and I'm at UIC. I'm the undergraduate lab coordinator. Ali?
Sorry, I thought I said something, but I was muted. I'm Ali Golbazi from University of New Haven. I'm a department chair here.
And then my name is Casey Latham. I am Keysight's university program manager for our Pathway products, which includes like Pathway of Design, like ADS and System View VSA.
Great. All right, well, Mario, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I got voluntold for that job. No problem. Welcome, everyone. This is something that was put together really quick, like 2 weeks ago. Sid kind of voluntold me to volunteer for this thing here. And we were originally just going to have a discussion about internships and everything. It's like, well, why have a discussion? Why don't we do something? So the team, bellied up to the bar, and we're putting together a kind of like a test for the summer. We're going to prototype a model for internships moving forward. COVID has turned our world upside down in both industry and in academia. And all indications are the world's going to stay changed for a very, very long time. Industry had to kind of pivot and say, how do we continue to deliver products, to design them, engineer them, while our people are all over the place? And they've done that. Industry didn't throw up its hands and say, well, can't get in the labs, let's just simulate. They got real stuff they got to push out the door. And on an academic side, we went more on the let's simulate, let's play with toys, let's do what we can at home, keep the learning moving. But our students are going to be going into a world where you don't have people sitting next to you. Academia is pretty much, except for the online schools, which typically don't have the labs, you have to have somebody sitting next to you if you want to get something done. And that's not the way the world works. I've got 40 years of experience in the field, and that's not the way my world works. My partner's 5 states away, so we hardly see each other. So I think this is an ideal time for academia and industry to try out a new paradigm on how we can do internships to get our students ready for the new world. And we're going to do this in a very controlled method. I'll tell everybody what the pieces are here. So we were looking for a couple of companies that had some projects that kind of been on the back burner, but they would like to get them done, legitimate projects, not some made up stuff. We got enough of that in industry. And the companies would put forth their products or their projects. They would provide an industry mentor, like a boss, provide a stipend for the students, because this is a legitimate internship. On the academic side, we want to help out our industry partners. Typically, when you're looking for an employee, an intern, you got to, do the job search thing. You got to go to the job fairs. You come back from a job fair, you got hundreds, maybe thousands of resumes to cull through. So on the academic side, we can help that process by taking a look at the job requirements. What are the skills required? And we can put forth our best students that we know would do the job. And then the companies would have the final say-so in hiring them. We would provide mentorship on our side. Not so much for the product, but the professionalism portion of it. You're going to go to a meeting, show up on time, don't be dressed in your beach wear, come dressed appropriately, act professionally, basically help get them ready for industry. And then ECE is going to be kind of Yenta in the middle. They're going to be like kind of like the job shop. And we haven't figured out all the fine details because we're flying by the seat of our pants right now, but this doesn't seem like a difficult thing for us to do. And when this works out, and it will work out, we just got to get the kinks out, and we do this next year, we'll figure out what all the pieces are, and there'll be more universities, more companies, more opportunities for our students. So we're moving forward with this. Keith Knight actually stepped up to the plate to be the industry partner that wants to work with us. And we're going to have a couple of students involved from 2 different universities. But we wanted to have a little bit of a discussion here. There was only 3 or 4 of us involved in this. I'd like to open it up to other industries, other academic institutions. Get your 2 cents on this thing here. I'm going to invite Ali. Let's let Ali first, if you want to jump in, and then we'll get something from Alan and Leslie. Make sure I got all the bits and pieces right here.
Sure. Mario, thank you for the wonderful introduction of the project. I think one of the things we also had in mind is, we don't mean to replace a real hands-on internship or working in a company with this remote or virtual internship. We want it to be a test bed. We wanted to see if this is an option. And I think at the end of this experiment, we want to learn whether or not we can possibly make this as a replacement for certain cases. And also, we will be very interested to see if we can embed the professional component of the internship on our students as much as the internship's content part. I know we have in our side of the world, we have done a pulse of the industry partners recently, and one of the things they tell us is the content and the knowledge of the students as far as when they come out of your programs, they are fine, and we can, even if they are edges, we can polish them or we can retrain them. The professional component and the communication aspect of students in the work environment is very important for them. So to me, this will be a good test bed to see if remotely we can still have this industry mentor walk the intern through some of the steps that they normally do as if the intern was in the company.
So to jump in, there's going to be a lot of variability. So some universities, the mentors will help keep the students on task, and some universities, it's going to be possible for the students to use the local resources while they work for, do an internship. Local electronics facilities, or at UIC, we have the additive manufacturing, the subtractive manufacturing that many of our students are trained in.
Leslie?
I just think one of the bonuses of this is that sometimes academia can be a little separate from industry. And I think we have the opportunity to really learn what is it that industry needs, which may end up altering some of our classwork. So I like that aspect.
I'd like to open the floor up and take questions, post them in chat, and we will try and address them.
Of course, Casey is here also on the panel, so I know he's.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Casey. Sorry, Casey. I'm looking at the original. I'm looking at the original list here. So give us your perspective, and I know you were brought in really, really late on this thing here. Give us your perspective from industry on a program.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think from our perspective, we get a lot of students that apply to our internships, but sometimes we were actually hiring an internship for our group specifically, and we were looking for a really fine set of skills. Someone that was going to be in their junior and senior year and had a specific set of like RS skills, for example. So a program like this, where we can work with the professors that we know and have relationships with, and have them put forth students that can work on those projects. I think that will be one really big benefit of this program.
Like students trained on your Field Fox.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Finish up? I'm sorry. No, I was going to say.
Yeah. That was something that we were talking about too, with regards to the Field Fox and specific instruments and how we would get them in the hands of the students too.
Well, we'll be happy to take the interns after Keysight has trained them on how to use the equipment. Just joking there. But from my perspective, I mentioned earlier that it's just about a year ago that Infineon completed the acquisition of Cypress, $2 billion, 4,000 employees to over 10 billion euros and 47,000 employees. So from an internship standpoint, we need more of them than we did a year ago. And I'm just working through, I don't work for HR, I work for a group called Business Excellence, which is a group that does a lot of different things. Innovation, there's a Silicon Innovation Center, there's R&D, there's the University Alliance Program. But I do work with HR during what I call career fair season, which at least at Cypress was Labor Day to mid-October, but Infineon pretty much recruits around the clock, around the calendar, not necessarily just in the fall. So anyhow, so going forward, I mean, I'll be interested in doing this and in following this, because I am working with HR on the internship program for Infineon Americas. And it'll be interesting to see how that, and we've got, for example, Industrial Power Group is headquartered in New Jersey, where the American headquarters is in El Segundo. We got Legacy, what we call Legacy Cypress, and Infineon in San Jose. Which also includes what used to be International Rectifier. So there's lots of different areas that we'll be looking for this year that, as a Cypress employee, we weren't looking for last year.
Mario, there's a very good question, academic related somewhat. How does this initiative is distinguished from a capstone, which is something we also discussed in our meetings, right? So that's a very good question. We don't want I don't think we wanted the technical aspect of the project to overwhelm the rest of the initiative. Yes.
Yeah, this is not an academic pursuit. I'm looking at this as an industry pursuit. I mean, eventually all our students have to graduate and get a job. And this is kind of like dipping their feet into the water of how to work remotely. I don't like to use the word virtual because you're not getting a virtual student, you get a real student. But this is not a capstone project. This is a real live industry put forth project, something that company needs. Could be some research, could be software, could be hardware, whatever the company needs. So this is a real live work experience, just remote. And we had some discussions about, do we get all the students from one particular university work on this thing here? I think for this out of the gate, there should be two different students from two different universities working for the same company.
Interesting.
So they get that remote collaboration, which we have to embrace as a new world. And I know Casey was saying this and Kathy was saying this yesterday, that they're all remote already. So there's a lot of remote posturing for working within Keysight. So they've already embraced this culture. Some of the other questions that we
Can I jump in, Mario?
Yes.
So just to bring up a point we mentioned earlier, we don't see this as replacing the internship program. We see this as just creating another option for companies. And then as regard to the capstone, our capstone is senior design, and companies are free to and encouraged to sponsor senior design at our university and at many other universities. So
right.
There are many options for industry university involvement.
I see that there's overlap, but it's possible that you could have an internship that then turns into sponsoring a capstone project when the student gets back on campus. That's so correct. It can be a longer relationship. And things that we've done in the past that would work remotely is we've had students do tear downs for us, or interns do tear downs of competitors. We don't make end products, but end products with our competitors' chips in them. And they don't necessarily need to be, to take something apart and do some basic measurements and tell us what's in it. That's something you could do remotely, I think.
Sure.
And if they need to come into a lab, use an oscilloscope or something, we have that capability. They just need to, fill out some paperwork that basically says they're not sick, something like that.
So I'm going to try and answer some of these questions that came in. Bruno asked whether or not how we approach companies. Kim actually ran point on this thing here. We were trying to find one of the CD or the CETA partners to make this a little bit easier. Somebody that we're familiar with, and I want to thank Keysight for jumping right in. Yes, at some point in time, we would like this to be available to all companies and all schools, but out of the gate, you can't just open the floodgates up. So we wanted to actually try it this summer. Very controlled environment. We're going to publish how this works, the pros, the cons, and tweak this, but I fully expect us to go bigger next summer, whether we open it up all the way or do, a smaller rollout, maybe a dozen companies or something. I don't know. We'll see how it works this summer. Let's see here. Let's do some of the other questions. But as I just want to reinforce what both Ali and Alan said, this is not designed to replace anything that exists today. This is just another way, a new way of embracing the new world. I know a lot of our students, and I'm sure a lot of your students there at other universities have had problems in the past year getting jobs, getting internships. So this is just a way to embrace the new norm.
One of the things that Kathy mentioned yesterday was that Keysight hires a lot of interns from near where one of their main facilities is in Colorado. And so we see this as a way for Keysight to develop relationships with other universities more geographically spread out.
Yeah,
Kathy's
that's
actually on
I
our
think that's,
call too. She's here now.
Hi, Kathy.
She's high. There she is. There she is. I think Sean asked the question about what can industry do to help this program grow. As somebody that comes from industry, one of the perspectives that industry has is if your employees aren't sitting there in their cubicles working, then they're not doing anything. And that's not true. I've actually found over the years, working with all the folks that I've hired, and I don't have any of them coming to a building, that they're actually more productive when they're working remotely. So I think a lot of this has to do with embracing the new norm and changing corporate cultures where if you don't need to be there, be okay with your employees working remotely. So that's somewhat of a corporate cultural change that's got to happen, just like within academia. Just because all the students at home doesn't mean that no learning's occurring. Okay, we just have to be comfortable with the fact that people are independent and that they're going to do their job. And at the end of the day, I know this can work because I've been doing this for years. Full-time part. The question, Ken asked the question, could there be both full part-time options? Yeah, well, I mean, internships typically are part-time options over the summer. Most of the companies that our students work for, they're not working 40 hours a week because when you go over 30, you got to pay people benefits, and nobody wants to pay benefits. So, yeah, and I also think with remote internships, and I've had maybe 3 or 4 of my students this year had remote internships during the academic year where they might work like 10 hours a week. So this can open up the door for companies to work with students year round. And in all the cases, all the students that I've talked to, they were all offered jobs, okay, upon graduation, because the company likes the students, the student likes the company. It's a cheap, easy way to test them out. But I think one of the benefits that this program has is that you have faculty department heads, staff support, and helping companies choose the right students with the right skill sets. And part of the skill set is not just technical, but do they have the work ethic?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a semantic question to me. A part-time student is someone who's going to school at a local university and they come in, for 10 hours a week or something, and so they can be going to school. Whereas an intern, it's full-time for 6 weeks, basically. And at least at Cypress, we treated full-time interns like employees. They had email addresses, they had insurance, and so on. So other companies may not do that, and I'm not exactly sure what the Infineon policy is on interns, but I know that Infineon actually hires PhD candidates while they're doing some research, and they may or may not hire them. They just want maybe to get the research done. So it's a whole different culture, because Infineon is essentially a German company. So there's a lot of different things that I don't know yet how this works. But I mean, for me, in my mind, a co-op is part-time while going to school in the same week, the same months, whereas an intern is, 6 weeks over the summer or something, or
Yeah.
maybe a semester, and all they're doing is working at the company.
Yeah, Patrick, I think you're right. There is semantics there. We do have students who say, and the companies treat them as interns. It's just that they're 10 hours a week because they've got classes. At the end of the day, it is a work-based experience working for a company. Call it whatever you want. And that's what we're trying to do here, is give our students the experiences that they may not otherwise have and get them adapted to the new world.
That's absolutely, Mario, right? I mean, we are not reinventing wheel in here. The internship is a required part of most of engineering disciplines. So we know our students have to go and find this opportunity. I just think the group who got together to make this this proposal is we couldn't resist. We could not do this because the timing is so absolutely essential. But also the question in here is whether or not we think we will duplicate to a degree a real internship doing this way. So that we will know by the end of the summer or by the end of this project. Discussion about the part-time and full-time, Mario, we talked about maybe if the industry gets to a point where they think there's a value to this, and I hope they will. At some point, this could extend into a regular semester where you have a part-time internship during the semester, or a full-time internship in the summer term or summertime.
Yeah, and then the question too is, what are we talking about? Juniors and seniors, or are we also talking about graduate students? In between senior and maybe starting a master's program, because then that's the different level of things they're capable of doing, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking at undergrad, and I'm not restricting it to just juniors, seniors. I want to look at the skills. I got some freshmen that got some skills that'll run circles around seniors. So right now, to me, I'm looking at what are the job requirements, what are the core competencies that are required, and what students can we find to do that. I find that our graduate students, both masters and PhD, are way busier than the undergrad students. So trying to get them to focus on research for a company while they're trying to do their own research is going to be difficult. They're sponsoring faculty. They guard them like it's gold.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, and anyhow, yeah. First year students, if they've been in something like FIRST Robotics in high school, I can believe that they know a lot already.
Yeah, I got some freshmen that they're just, I mean, they're home labs. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's got nothing to do with the year. It has to do with the skills, both hard skills, what experiences do they have, and do they have really good work ethics? Because if you're going to be working remotely, you have to be really good at time management, and you have to be hyper focused on wanting to get the job done, because you don't have your faculty there beating you over the head every day saying it's due tomorrow. You're going to have a boss, your industry mentor. They're going to give you milestones that you have to hit. So it helps. Well, this year, because we're going to be helping pick the students, I think that's kind of critical to the success of this. not only this year, but moving forward.
So are we picking one student right now? Is that
Well,
the prototype?
Keysight's looking at 2 students.
Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah. Thanks, Keysight. This is very sweet. Yeah.
But we're hoping other industry partners will jump in and probably increase the pool, because you really have to have few, I think in my opinion, you really have to have few experiences to really have a good conclusion whether or not this thing works properly, right?
We're open to bring in more people, more companies during this prototype period.
Yes. So if there's any of our industry partners out there that want to jump in, please speak up now. You can send a message to Claire and she'll or Kim, and they will gather them. But we would like to have a few more data points.
So what's the kind of work that's being planned, or that's still in making?
That's still, I mean, that's going to be up to the companies.
Okay.
We're not going to tell Keysight what projects they should do. It comes from within. And, once we have that, like kind of a project or a job description and core competencies, then we can float them by the respective universities. We can call through the students that we know would fit that and maybe send them a few candidates for them to do a job interview. I'd like the kids to have that experience of being interviewed.
Sid, this is Kathy. We're still talking about what we might use as a project, but if you have any good ideas, send it to Kim or Claire, and I'm sure they'll feed it back. We collaborated a little on this yesterday, but we always have more opportunities for student labor.
Yeah. I was talking to Mike Russo yesterday too. He's got some ideas.
Good.
I mean, it may be your opportunity to find out if they have become better team players because of pandemic. And if the model is moving to hybrid in many companies, what should we do in academia to train them to fit that model? I think it'll be easier for us to customize the kind of people you're looking for, if we knew exactly that's what you want.
We did talk a little bit yesterday, and this isn't decided, but we may use 2 intern positions, but 1 at 2 different schools, and have them collaborate, because that will give them also really good experience working across 2 different platforms with 2 different schools. So I think that would help us with our learnings as well.
Yeah, I think that's to me, that's an ideal way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Kathy, about the nature of the project, perhaps, in the group we talked about, projects should not be such that it has a quick timeline or turnaround time, because it's actually, obviously it's going to be done by students in the summertime. And end product, obviously we want them to succeed and create something, but we don't want something you would put in front of us, give me a result in 2 weeks. Something to proof of concept and things like that would be wonderful. But Sid, with regards to what the universities should do to prepare these students for an online opportunity, it's kind of very, very interesting, right? I think if nothing else, over the last year, we've already been elevated, and our students included, right, to an online format. So we know at least we became a good video recorders. We know where the light should be when we're sitting in a room. We learned all of the bugs take them out of the system. So I'm hoping that our students are a little bit more ready than the year before the pandemic for these kinds of activities, online activities.
Well, I think, like we pointed out in the last session, at least the breakout room I was in, the students learn more when they have to set up their own lab environment. So they don't have a lab manager to have everything laid out for them when they walk in the room and just start their lab. They have to make the computer work. They have to make the software load and functional, and they have to figure out those issues themselves. So I think they're more capable because of the online environment if they had taken a lab course where they had to, do all this stuff.
I think that to answer Sid's question, I think whenever a student goes out, be it a co-op, an internship, whatever you want to call it, we should listen to them when they come back, because they got a whole different perspective, and they're going to come back because they're still students. What did they learn in industry? And they may be in a real good position to help mentor us on how we can change things in the classroom and in the lab to better prepare them for industry. I know I listen to my students all the time.
One of their assignments might be to, what I did last summer kind of thing, which is actually what did I learn in industry? And they could get credit for it.
And Ollie, we should probably hook up some point in time. I know you folks run a course for your interns. I'd really love to take a look at, if you were willing to share that, both what you tell the interns and then what do you look for them for deliverables at the end of this thing here? Do you get feedback from them? And then do you incorporate that?
A very strong reflection on the students' behalf. What happened? Tell us what happened. And a well-designed reflection paper can tell us quite a bit. And the academic part of what you wanted to probably publish out of this work could come out of those reflections, I think, easily.
Right. Excellent. Claire, how much more time we got? Are we up?
We've got 4 minutes remaining.
Okay. We see what other questions we have here. Casey, do you want to jump in on anything here? Because that's
no, I think as a team, you guys have done an amazing job to come up with this thing in such a short time. I mean, we spoke about this, like a few days ago, not even weeks. I mean, you guys
it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. I said, I'm not talking about it. We're going to do it.
Very cool. Keysight, thanks so much. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't thank Keysight enough.
Yeah. I mean, Mario, I'm sure you listen to it, but I know that when our students come back, even when they come back from large tech companies, they certainly realize that the university model of teaching from a single source point, either there's an instructor or a TA is not necessarily designed for self-learning. They always want to know, ask questions instead of trying to find out on their own. That would be a big shift. I think that's happened not because of us, but because of pandemic, because more students are trying to figure out things on their own since they did not have walk-in access. So we might be able to just capitalize it and basically change our model for delivering information in a very subtle way that helps companies too. We don't know. We are learning. At least I'm learning here.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine last night. He brought two things up. He said one thing that could help academia quite a bit. We got to stop teaching, and we got to start allowing the students to learn. And the other thing is, he said, and this comes from because we both worked at the same company. Engineering is not the science of perfection; it's the art of compromise. And we keep beating these students. You got to get a perfect score. You got to get an A. No, you don't. It's got to be good enough to ship. So there are some lessons that we can learn from industry. And to me, the real hardcore learning coming out of this kind of a thing, if we embrace it, is how do we better prepare our students for industry by listening to their experiences and incorporating them.
You have to go from being a teacher to a facilitator.
That's correct. Absolutely, Patrick.
Well, we had a session, and Kim, I don't know, it was probably 6 months ago or more, where most of the professors said their main pain point from the pandemic was that students don't like to tinker anymore and don't like to troubleshoot. They like to email or call and ask questions. And all the professors and assistants were overloaded with student questions because they wouldn't take the time to figure out how to get their equipment, past the couple of few things they needed to do to even get working on their lab work. So that's something that's near and dear to us. I mean, we want to create problem solvers. We want to hire problem solvers. We don't want to spoon feed employees. They need to know how to figure things out.
Part of the problem over time is that you can't tinker anymore. You try taking your cell phone apart to see what's inside it and try putting it back together. At least when I was a kid, you could get a transistor radio and realize, well, only 2 of these transistors are actually connected, even though it says 12 transistors. Well, there's 12 there, but that's just advertising. So you can't, and I think that gave rise to the maker movement, because people want to tinker, but you're not going to tinker with your $500, cell phone and stuff like that.
Any closing comments? I'm kind of happy with where this is going. If anybody has any good feedback, you can send it to me or send it to Claire or Kim. I'll let them be the focal point, and we'll bring your ideas together, because this is really the grand experiment for us. And even though we kind of came up with this at the last minute, this really needs to be a group effort. Thank you all for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day.